What is poppin' YouTube? Back again with another video. Today we're talking about my mustache players ahead of week 6, so you do not have to be fighting people on the waivers on Tuesday and Wednesday, and they're going to be nicely stashed on your roster, so you don't have to worry about it. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and let's go. When we're talking about my first player you should be stashing this week, it is going to be Jeff Wilson Jr. for the Miami Dolphins. Yes, with my man Devon out, and then you have Raheem Mostert now sliding in as the full-time starter, which is great for Raheem. Jeff Wilson is now just coming off of IR. And the thing that we've seen with this Dolphins running attack, they absolutely love to have a running back by committee. So, of course, Raheem Mostert's great. But the thing is with Raheem, we haven't seen my man Raheem play a whole season healthy in quite a long time. And my man's 31 years old. So Jeff Wilson stepping in has had a really great career. And when we're talking about some ranks of him last season, week 9 versus Chicago had 16 fantasy points. And week 10 had 22 versus Cleveland last year, had 12, had 11, had 10, and all of this was on the Miami Dolphins team last year. So he already knows the playbook. So all he needs to do is get healthy, and my man's available in 70% of ESPN leagues and 76% of sleeper leagues. So Jeff Wilson, go add him to the back end of your bench. Depending on how deep your league is, Jeff Wilson is someone that I'm willing to stash because I want a running back that's in this elite level Miami Dolphins backfield, and I definitely think Jeff Wilson is that. My second player, and we talked about him last week, is going to be Jonathan Mingo. Jonathan Mingo, each and every week, seems like he's improving for the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers, for as much as we're bashing Bryce Young, that he's not as good as Anthony Richardson or CJ Stroud as a rookie yet, is improving. 13 receptions, 112 yards, 0 touchdowns. He's a wide receiver 81 on 2023 stat, but he's available in 93% of ESPN leagues. He's also available in 78% of sleeper leagues. Jonathan Mingo comes from Ole Miss. We've seen some elite level rookie wide receivers come out of Ole Miss. AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Elijah Moore. If there was to be the next one, it could be Jonathan Mingo, and he's got the perfect opportunity to step in along the stretch. Last week we talked about Rashid Rice. Rashid Rice had a pretty nice day this week. Could this week be Jonathan Mingo? I think Jonathan Mingo definitely has some great stash capabilities. My next stash we need to be talking about is Zach Charbonnet. Now, Zach Charbonnet isn't necessarily like a deep stash like maybe a Jeff Wilson would be, or maybe even a Jonathan Mingo. But Zach Charbonnet is being really disrespected right now in the fantasy football community when we're looking at how people are saying, well, Kenneth Walker, he's the bell cow. But it's like Zach Charbonnet still got drafted in the second round. And a lot of people are saying, well, he's just regulated to third down work. I think if anything, and I'm saying anything were to happen to Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet grabs a hold of this job, I think we're looking at way different situation going down the line. So are we banking on a Ken Walker injury? No, we don't, because I have plenty of Ken Walker and I don't want that to happen. We do need to keep ourselves safe about grabbing Zach Charbonnet if we have Ken Walker. But even more so, if you're looking, you're in maybe a deeper league and you're able to hold Zach Charbonnet for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I think that's something that I am willing to do, knowing the upside that Zach Charbonnet does have in this very sparse, depthless running back landscape that we currently find ourselves in the fantasy football landscape before week 6. So go see if Zach Charbonnet is available at all. And if Zach Charbonnet isn't available, no worries, no harm, no foul. My next guy you need to be stashing is Michael Wilson. We talked about Michael Wilson in the stash video a few weeks ago. And what did the man do after we kind of said, hey, go make sure you're stashing Michael Wilson? 10 fantasy points, 26 fantasy points. But then last week versus Cincinnati, only 2.8 fantasy points. So last week wasn't good. It really wasn't. But there's a chance that whoever picked up Michael Wilson, they didn't start him. And then all of a sudden, with all the injuries and buys in week 5, they started Michael Wilson and then they ended up dropping him. 75% available in ESPN leagues, 49% available in sleeper. So go check out Michael Wilson, because I think the same upside that he had in week 3, in week 4 is capable going on to the rest of the season. So go see what Michael Wilson, if he's available. My next mustache is going to be Michael Mayer. Now, I would love to tell you to go pick up Greg Dulcich, but he already played and he got injured. So we can't tell you to go pick up three-legged Greg, but what we can tell you to go do is go pick up Michael Mayer. Michael Mayer is pretty much there. 99% available in ESPN, 88% available in sleeper. Michael Mayer, drafted in the second round, high pedigree tight end from Notre Dame. The thing that we need to understand about Michael Mayer is the offense just hasn't looked great and he hasn't been able to get on the field, which has kind of been surprising to me. When we're looking at his splits, last week had the best fantasy football day and had 5.9 fantasy points, which just isn't great. But if we look at the snap share, it's been steadily going up. 49% week 1, 40% week 2, 47% in week 3, 51, and then 66% this last week. So if my man can get on the field, which is what the Raiders drafted him to do, I think Michael Mayer continues to be more fantasy football relevant week after week after week as we continue on. Our next mustache candidate is going to be Wan'Dale Robinson. Someone has to catch passes in this Giants wide receiver room. Wan'Dale Robinson, 94% owned in ESPN, 58% owned in sleeper. He has 14 receptions, 79 yards, wide receiver 84 this year. It's not great. 6 fantasy points, 9 fantasy points, 6 fantasy points. Now, he didn't play the first 2 weeks and he's slowly been coming on. But if you look at his snap share, share. He's hovering around 65% snap share right now. If my man can get into those 70s, 75, I think we could be talking about Wan'Dale Robinson having some type of flex appeal as the season goes on, because let's be honest, this Giants offense has to figure it out rest of the season. And we'll give you 2 more stash candidates. Tank Bigsby, we've been talking about him. He probably got dropped. 85% available on ESPN, 70% available on Sleeper. Tank Bigsby is also just like a handcuff candidate at this point because Travis Etienne's been absolutely amazing, dominating that backfield. But still, 2 touchdowns, 15 rushing yards, and his 2023 stats. But as he gets more trusted in this backfield, if something were to happen to Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby is definitely someone that if you have a spot to hold and none of these other running backs that we talked about before are available, then go see if Tank Bigsby's out there. And we'll throw in one last candidate is going to be Zach Evans. While we love Kyron Williams, while we love the fact that my man really had no athletic traits as a rookie that screamed, oh my goodness, this guy's going to break out, and then he breaks out. Zach Evans is pretty much 100% available on ESPN and on Sleeper, and he's the RB2. He is the RB2 in this Rams backfield because Rivers ended up getting hurt, so now it's really much just Kyron and Zach Evans. And say what you want about Zach Evans. Say it. But Zach Evans at one time was looked at as a top running back in his class. I think there's a lot of exciting things that Zach Evans could possess on a week-to-week basis. Let's throw some just, honorable mentions, people that you could also be trying to stash. Mario Douglas, Elijah Mitchell. There's some other guys that we've talked about in some past videos. And if you haven't go check out those videos where I talk about Demario Douglas. I talk about Elijah Mitchell. But if those guys are also available and you're maybe in a deeper league, there's some guys that I'm targeting as well. So hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Appreciate you tuning in to this mustache video on this Saturday, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.